This is lesson number 4 of chapter Force and Laws of Motion, and today we are going to learn about Newton's second law of motion. So let us consider a body of mass m which is moving with velocity u. As you can see in the diagram, the initial velocity of the object is u at time t equals to 0. A force is applied on the body in time t so that its velocity becomes v. So there is change in velocity now. So acceleration produced in the body is a, then acceleration is equals to change in velocity upon time taken. That is the formula. Change in velocity is equals to final velocity minus initial velocity. Now the acceleration a is equals to v minus u upon t. So this is how the acceleration will come out for the change in velocity of body of mass m. Now, according to Newton's second law of motion, it defines that the rate of change of momentum of a body is directly proportional to the applied force and takes place in the direction in which the force acts. So, force is directly proportional to the change in momentum and inversely proportional to the time taken. So, we can write change in momentum as delta P. Delta P denotes the change in momentum. Now, momentum is equals to the product of mass and the velocity of an object. So, change in momentum is given by mv minus mu. So, force is directly proportional to mv minus mu upon time taken, that is t. Now, in the next step, we will take out mass as common. So, what is left inside the bracket is v minus u. So, it becomes m bracket v minus u bracket close whole divided by t. Since we discussed already in the previous slide that acceleration is v minus u upon t, so we can replace v minus u upon t by a, right? So F becomes directly proportional to m multiplied by a. Now whenever we change the directly proportionality sign, we replace it with a constant. So here we are taking the constant as k. So force is equals to kma. Again, force is defined as if force of 1 Newton is applied on a body of mass 1 kilogram produces an acceleration of 1 meter per second square on the body, then placing the values, k will come out to be 1 or constant is equals to 1. So finally the formula for force becomes mass into acceleration. This is your second law of Newton for motion. Again, we can write acceleration to be equals to force divided by mass of the body. The acceleration produced in a body is directly proportional to the force acting on it and inversely proportional to the mass of the body. Force is a vector quantity because it depends on the direction in which the body is moving. Force can cause acceleration or deceleration. For example, accelerator of a car accelerates it and brakes decelerate it. The SI unit of force is Newton, and 1 Newton is defined as that force which when acting on a body of mass 1 kilogram produces an acceleration of 1 meter per second square in it. So if you are going to place 100 gram of weight on your outstretched palm, the force you feel is nearly 1 unit. Now let us discuss the units of force. We know the unit of force is Newton. So let us see 1 Newton is equals to what? As we know, force according to the formula, force is equals to mass into acceleration, right? So the SI unit of mass is 1 kg and that of acceleration is 1 meter per second square. Placing the units of mass and acceleration, we will get 1 kg meter per second square, and which is equivalent to 1 unit because Newton is the unit of force. So 1 Newton is equals to 1 kg meter per second square. Hence we can say 1 Newton is that force which produces an acceleration of 1 meter per second square in a mass of 1 kilogram. In CGS term, means in centimeter, gram and second term, the unit of force is different. How? Again, we have force equals to mass into acceleration. Now in CGS unit of mass is 1 grams and acceleration is 1 centimeter per second square. So unit of force will be equivalent to 1 gram multiplied by 1 centimeter per second square, or 1 gram centimeter per second square, which we call as dyne. So 1 gram centimeter per second square is equals to 1 dyne. So again we can define dyne here. The definition of dyne will be the force is said to be 1 dyne if it produces 1 centimeter per second square acceleration in a body of mass 1 gram. So this is how you define 1 Newton, and this is how you define 1 dyne. Now let us see what is the relation between Newton and dyne. Let us do some calculation. Since 1 Newton is equals to 1 kilogram meter per second square, right? So 1 kilograms is equals to 1000 grams or 10 raised to the power 3 grams. Similarly, 1 meter is equals to 100 centimeter or 10 raised to the power 2 centimeter. Placing these values into the 1 kilogram meter per second square, we will get 10 raised to the power 3 grams in place of 1 kilogram, 10 raised to the power 2 centimeter in place of 1 meter. So doing the calculation, we will have 10 raised to the power 5 gram centimeter square. Centimeters per second square. So as we know, 1 gram centimeter per second square is 1 dyne. So we can relate that 1 Newton is equals to 10 raised to the power 5 dyne. So if we need to convert Newton into dyne, we can do so by multiplying the given value with 10 raised to the power 5. Now let us talk about the applications of Newton's second law of motion. First, a cricket player or fielder moves his hands backwards on catching a fast moving cricket ball. Why? A fast moving cricket ball has large momentum because it has greater velocity. In stopping the cricket ball, its momentum has to be reduced to zero, right? Means it needs to bring down to the state of rest. Now, when a player moves his hands back, the time taken to stop the ball increases and hence the rate of change of momentum decreases. That is, the force exerted by the ball on the hands decreases, so the hands of the player do not get hurt. Now to remove your confusion, we know that force is equals to change in momentum upon time. So in this example, when a player moves his hands back, the time to stop the ball is increasing. So when time is increasing, the force will decrease, the impact will decrease, right? And why? Because force is inversely proportional to time and it is directly proportional to momentum. So time taken increases, force decreases, and that is how catching of ball does not hurt the player that much as it can if he stops the ball immediately. Second, a high jumping or long jumping athlete is provided either a cushion or a heap of sand on the ground to fall upon. Why? Because the cushion or sand helps to increase the time in which the momentum comes to zero. This decreases the rate of change of momentum and hence the force, so the athlete does not get hurt. So the concept behind all these examples is same. These are actually the applications and practical examples of Newton's second law of motion. Third, packing materials like thermocol, corrugated sheets, bubbled plastic sheet, straw, paper strands, etc. are used while packing glassware, chinaware, electronic devices, etc. Why? Because these materials help to increase the time in which the momentum comes to zero when jolting and jerking takes place. Because these equipments or these glassware or chinaware, they are fragile, right? So packing with these kind of things like thermocol or corrugated sheets, reduces the impact, reduces the force on these objects. So again, in this, you have the Newton's second law of motion working. So this decreases the rate of change of momentum and hence the force, so the articles do not get broken. So I hope you understood what is Newton's second law of motion. Based on that, here is your homework for today. Thank you.